With all due respect. With all due respect. With all due respect, I believe we need a more innovative approach.
With all due respect, the current strategy may not meet our goals.
With all due respect, your analysis overlooks some critical data. With all due respect. I see your point, but have we considered the potential risks?
I see your point, but how does this align with our budget constraints?
I see your point, but could there be a more cost-effective solution? I see your point, but may I suggest an alternative? May I suggest an alternative? May I suggest an alternative that might address our concerns more directly?
May I suggest an alternative approach to increase efficiency?
May I suggest an alternative that could reduce costs? May I suggest an alternative? It might be beneficial to reconsider. It might be beneficial to reconsider. It might be beneficial to reconsider our timeline for more realistic expectations. It might be beneficial to reconsider our timeline for more realistic expectations.
It might be beneficial to reconsider the scope of this project.
It might be beneficial to reconsider our target market. It might be beneficial to reconsider. If I may, I'd like to point out. If I may, I'd like to point out. If I may, I'd like to point out that we've overlooked a key demographic.
If I may, I'd like to point out a discrepancy in the data analysis.
If I may, I'd like to point out that our competitors are ahead on this. If I may, I'd like to point out. It's worth considering the possibility that. It's worth considering the possibility that. It's worth considering the possibility that our assumptions may be outdated.
It's worth considering the possibility that we are targeting the wrong audience.
It's worth considering the possibility that there are unforeseen complications. It's worth considering the possibility that. It's crucial to address. It's crucial to address the feedback from our beta testers.
It's crucial to address the inefficiencies in our workflow.
It's crucial to address the potential for market saturation. It's crucial to address. To say the least. To say the least. To say the least, the results were disappointing.
To say the least, the project's progress has been slower than expected.
To say the least, the feedback on the new policy was not favorable. To say the least. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I see the value in this approach, but we must consider the risks.
Don't get me wrong. I appreciate everyone's effort, but we need to improve.
Don't get me wrong. The idea is innovative, but it might not be practical. Don't get me wrong. How should I put it? How should I put it? How should I put it? The project lacks a certain level of innovation.
How should I put it? Our current strategy doesn't fully align with market needs.
How should I put it? The feedback has been less positive than we anticipated. How should I put it?
With all due respect, I believe we need to re-evaluate our current project timeline.
Don't get me wrong, I'm fully committed to the project. However, the scope seems to expand daily.
I see your point, but how does this align with our budget constraints?
How should I put it? The quality of the work delivered so far does not meet our standards.
I appreciate your perspective. However, we've been facing resource limitations.
Understood? Let's identify the critical features needed for launch and allocate resources accordingly.
It's worth considering the possibility that we may need to adjust our expectations.
Agreed. Prioritizing tasks could help us maintain focus and meet key milestones.
To say the least, our recent campaign did not achieve the expected impact.
I appreciate your perspective. However, we were working with very tight deadlines and limited resources.
Understandable, but moving forward, how can we ensure our designs align more closely with our brand identity?
If I may, I'd like to point out that the messaging could have been more targeted to our core audience.
That's a valid observation. How should we adjust our strategy to better engage our audience?
Perhaps we could start by conducting more thorough market research to inform our creative decisions.
Agreed. Integrating customer feedback into our campaign planning could also prove beneficial.
Excellent suggestions. Let's regroup next week with a revised plan based on these insights.